I think the Chinese culture has this money gene, as we discussed, there's a religion of money in China.
Hello and welcome to the Auto Ethnographer. I'm John Stech, your host on this journey. We travel the globe to bring you stories about culture and the global automotive industry. Fasten your seatbelt and let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Auto Ethnographer. This is the first of a four-part series on marketing and consumer trends in China. Today, we'll talk a little bit about the foundations of China's cultural acceleration and consumer trends. Guiding us through these four episodes is Grace Mo, a trend forecaster and brand strategist whose career has mirrored and shaped China's extraordinary transformation over the last 2 decades. Born and raised in mainland China, Grace began as an English teacher in Chongqing before moving to Shanghai, where she shifted from translating architecture to actually architecting brands. She's worked with global brands like Coca-Cola, Lego, Ferrari, and LVMH, as well as rising Chinese challengers, helping them navigate China's fast-evolving consumer landscape with cultural intelligence and deep market insights. Her work spans everything from ethnographic interviews in rural towns to launching e-commerce brands across Southeast Asia. Grace is a regular contributor to Canvas 8 and Time Out Shanghai, where she decodes lifestyle, luxury, and cultural trends. Whether guiding Chinese brands going global or helping international names localize for China, she's known for spotting the signals that matter and turning complexity into clarity. You can read all about them in her blog, the link to which will be shown in the show notes. Grace, welcome to today's episode.
Hello, John. Thanks for having me.
Great pleasure to have you on the show. Really looking forward to today's episode, but we have a lot of topics to cover today and also over the next 3 episodes after this one.
Sure, I
Can
will
you
be glad to join you for this.
can you tell us a little bit about your history, your past, a little bit with respect to marketing and trend forecasting before we get into the actual topics?
Sure, I can do that. As you just got my introduction about my career, I started very humble as an English teacher back in my hometown Chongqing before I moved to Shanghai. I have done a lot of, I have just played various roles in different marketing agencies like marketing research agency, creative agency, design agency, and brand consulting agencies. So my past is a chaos or just like a mass mutation, you can say. So I have a lot of experience, but this mess and the chaos just train me have a good eye to spot the signals, the trend signals and the cultural signals to see clearly what's going on amid all this kind of chaos and the mess. And I think after all these kind of years, I accumulate a lot of experiences. I would love to help brands, both global and local brands, to thrive in the market, both in China or overseas. That's my goal.
That's a great goal, and it's a huge challenge because the Chinese market has been evolving so quickly. It must be quite difficult to stay on top of those different changes and on the trends.
You are correct, John. I have to say that because China has developed so fast in the past 20 years. But as the time slowed down, Chinese economy is facing great challenge ahead, with consumers are reluctant to spend money in recently. So there's a great challenge, but also opportunities for brand to catch and thrive in the market.
Now, definitely something that requires an expert guidance to
Sure.
navigate and figure out how to get the consumers to look at your brand and to purchase your brand, your products or services.
Yeah, you are right. That's our mission. And my vision and my mission is to help the brand to see the signals and those cultural signals to adapt to the Chinese culture and thrive to compete uh, in China and globally.
So then let's take a look at the current situation and how that's developed. Um, let's take a look at the greater situation in China, some of the background. There is a lot of knowledge, of course, globally about the size, the vastness of the Chinese cities with tens or 20 million residents. So there are a lot of urban aspirations, and there's a developing middle class identity. Can you talk a little bit about how the shifting demographics and the disposable income are shaping the taste and the consumption and even the brand loyalty in China?
So I would love to share a couple of things about the Chinese urban aspirations and the middle class. And actually, the Chinese middle class is shrinking, but they still remain a key spending group, especially when compared to a more conscious Generation Z. And except the kids' education, travel is the top spending categories for both affluent and the middle class Chinese. In the post-COVID era, their spending habits have shifted from products to services, such as cultural exploration, like the city walks are their favorite travel choice, and also like the staycations and the solo trips. And amid the China's economic downturn, the outdoor fashion market is also a notable bright spot for us to keep close watch on. This sector is undergoing a process of premiumization, suggesting that affluent consumers are seeking a deeper and more spiritual connection through the products and the service they buy. Leading brand in this space currently including some foreign brands like
Yes.
Arc'teryx and the North Face, with more premier and luxury Nordic brands entering the market to grab the share of this booming economy. And as you just mentioned, there are also some challenges and opportunities for brand in China. In terms of the brand strategy, I think the brand building is a long commitment, and the marketers and the ambitious global brands should eye on long-term commitment rather than the short-term gain. And the brand loyalty is quite low in this market, so it is crucial to avoid being caught in price wars that might dilute the brand's core and the brand's appeal. So that is my suggestions for the brands who are interested and want to invest in China market.
So it sounds to me then that the customer is less willing to separate from their money. But if they do separate for their money, they're looking for a brand that has more meaning, more deep meaning. Is that what I understand?
Actually, that is correct because nowadays consumers are more careful about spending money. They save more. But if your brand has correct marketing strategy, understanding the local culture, and position yourself aspirationally enough to build the connection with consumers, your brand have a lot of chance to win in the market.
Good. And you mentioned money. The consumers are currently holding on to their money during this economic challenging period. You and I had previously one time talked about what you called the religion of money.
Yeah.
It's really a cultural phenomenon. And can you explain what that means a little bit, and how does that impact society as a whole, and where does this come from historically and culturally?
I think the Chinese culture has this money gene, as we discussed, it's a religion of money in China because you think that. Also, thank you for sharing Ronnie Chen's video about Chinese people loving money. That's funny. And that's correct because the Chinese people do adore the god of fortune we call Cai Shen Ye. And every spring festivals, every Chinese family will pray that Cai Shen Ye, the god of fortune, for prosperity a year ahead. So China has this tradition in their culture. But also China is a country who has spiritual connections, even though the people in China do not have any religion, religion like the Christian or other religion believing. So people, I think in the past 20 years, Chinese government encourage people to make money, and which also fuel our ambition to uh, make our fuel our ambition to make more money, which result in the 20 years booming economy. So I think that's a good side of the money religion. But on the other side, as I mentioned, it's a double-edged sword. On the other side, we are facing the unparalleled challenges as we need something more than just economic prosperity. Uh, as as the economy is going down, people are want something more than money, so they are yearning for spiritual connection and fulfillment. For example, there is a brand, a Chinese brand called 老铺 Gold, 老铺 黄金. Maybe you have heard of this. Someone said that 老铺 Gold would be a truly first Chinese global luxury brand. But it takes time to see whether this could become true. But 老铺 黄金's huge success in China naturally reflects this shift of consumers' behavior and mindset from only pursuing status and prestige to spiritual connection.
So there was some sort of a void or a hole that developed by only going and chasing money, and now people are trying to address that hole in that void in their lives. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They want to fill that void left by money because more and more Chinese people realize they need more than money. So that's a turning point, which might indicate in the next couple of decades, the brands should take effort and invest more time and their money to build the connection emotionally and spiritually with Chinese consumers.
That sounds like a great word of advice for any brand coming into China,
Yeah,
as well as, of course, the local brands as well, to developing their future business.
yes, I think that is a very obvious signal that the consumer's mindset and behaviors are shifting from money to spiritual yearning.
We talked about growth here, and we also just talked a few moments ago about some of these mega cities. But you had told me one time before that a lot of the future growth you expected to come not from the cities, but from the rural markets, and some of the regions that are not really in the spotlight today. Can you speak a little bit more about this? Because I think, at least outside of China, people don't really think of the rural areas. They're focused more generally on the cities. Who are the people and what are some of the opportunities here?
Hi, John. I would love to share my opinions about this new growth in the rural area. But as you can see, even though China Chinese economy was booming in the past 20 years, this thing mostly happened in the urban city. But we are eyeing on the rural market as the economy is slowing down. Um, In the past several years, a lot of global brands like luxury brands like Cadia, LVMH are invest to penetrate to the tier 3 and the tier 4 city. The small towns, not the rural, but the small towns. They're called the noble woman in small town, 小镇贵妇, referring to those who spend money on luxury goods because they have stable jobs and savings, enjoy life more than those people working and struggling in urban cities and like Shanghai. And nowadays, people are escaping, more and more people are escaping from the city. They want to pursue a slow-paced life because the competition in urban cities are too intense. They are tired of this intense competition. They are running from evolution we call 内卷. Some say that China's future is in the rural market, is in the rural area, 农村, the big rural area. The trend is propelled by Li Ziqi's ideal rural life for China. People are seeking peace of mind in rural areas. Some people, if you just scroll the Chinese Douyin, Chinese TikTok, Douyin, you can see people, some ambitions, entrepreneurs are doing business in rural areas. Some are opening coffee shops there. Some do some farming, organic farming, to provide the from farm to table product and service to the people who can afford this luxury.
So that's quite a shift. Partly with the luxury goods, you mentioned LVMH, but also the more local products, like, as you mentioned, the organic goods, organic foods.
Yes, there are two things. In the past several years, luxury brands like LVMH and Cadia are eyeing on not a rural area, but tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 4 city, because people there would love to enjoy, would love to just spend their money on luxury products because they have stable jobs. And nowadays, more and more people escape from the city. That's a new trend emerging.
I can certainly understand that. I think you have different countries around the world where you see on Friday afternoon the cars are streaming out of the city into the countryside, and then they come back on Sunday afternoon. People need some air, some space, some greenery around them.
Yes, actually, in Chinese culture DNA, people are still wanna life without bustle and hustle. Have you just ever just read the Chinese famous poem which reflect an ideal life Chinese people found in the rural area or in the nature? There are a lot of poems like and the literature descriptions about the ideal life in a countryside or something. So that is Chinese culture DNA.
We also had previous discussion one time about the impact of high net worth individuals and even ultra high net worth individuals on the growth potential in China. I assume that these people are primarily located in the large cities. How would you say that they can contribute to the growth in China? Because the number of must be relatively small compared to the entire population.
Correct. That's correct. They are small numbers, but they are the focus of the giant luxury brands. Because if they contribute, maybe they might just make up about 10% of the consumer targeted consumer of the luxury brands, but they contribute more than 80% of the revenues. So they are very important for the luxury brand to survive during this economic downturn. There are a couple of trends. The trend because during the when the economic slowing down, but the downgrading consumption, 消费降级 does not affluent these affluent consumers in China in urban cities. They are the hope of premier and luxury brands in the market as the sales for major luxury giants are declining recently. However, their consumption behaviors and mindset are shifting. First, they shift from they are just spend more money on service instead of on product. Like travel, they splurge a lot of money on travel instead of on real products like bags, shoes, or fashion or something like that. That is one shift. And the second, as we just discussed before, they are looking for something to fill the spiritual void left by the huge loss from the economic boom to the economic downturn. So, uh, if you just are in Shanghai, go to those financial centers like IFC in Lujiazui, the Shanghai's financial center. You take a look in the luxury stores in IFC, the one of the premier shopping mall. You can see people just quote in front of the 老铺 gold, 老铺 黄金 instead of Hermes. There used to be a very long queue in front of Hermes. Now there is a long queue in front of the 老铺 Gold, 老铺 黄金, which is a Chinese luxury brand. The reason behind is that 老铺 黄金 precisely capture this need for spiritual fulfillment and turn this void into commercial prosperity. There are some challenges for luxury and premier brands too, because for 老铺 黄金 is surpassing other global giants to become the new darling as a luxury jewelry brand, but there are challenges for 老铺 黄金 if they are going global, because this is a unique or maybe coincident thing happening in China. We have to just wait and see whether 老铺 or gold can really capture the zeitgeist of China, or they can adapt this the brand core to the other cultures. And another thing is the challenge is Chinese people, because they are saving money, they become more and more careful about spending their pennies on something they think worthwhile. So they put quality first. If the brand want to win in China, they need to prioritize the quality with affordable price, because people here, someone said, Chinese people are looking for Japanese quality at Indian price. This is partially correct, but not 100% accurate. Chinese people still pay money for quality, but you have to justify the price is worthwhile for good quality, and they will still spend money on that.
It sounds to me that there's been such an incredible shift over the last 20 years. First, 20 years of growth and boom. And now, as things are a little bit slow and uncertain, people are spending their money more carefully. They want more from their brands, more meaning, more depth. And it sounds also that they will not sacrifice in quality. They don't want to spend so much money, but they still have a high requirement for quality.
Exactly, John. Exactly. Because Chinese people are more careful about their money. They want to spend their money on something which can be, which they believe can be an investment for their happiness emotionally. So, uh,
And of course, as we started earlier in the conversation, this money is, as you have said before, is a little bit like a religion, and they ask for the blessing for the coming year.
yes, they spend the money for like more prosperity and certainty in this chaotic age. There is a religion called 玄学. I'm not quite sure how to translate in English, but you can just look at my previous article about this. I mentioned the 玄学 is kind of a superstition. People wanna find predictive. They want a sense of security in this uncertain future. So that's why 老布 Gold capture this. And they use a lot of design and motives to echo the needs for this certainty. So that's very interesting. So I think that if your brand want to make money in China, you need to just take notes of the shift of the mindset of the consumers and their behaviors.
I think this is a great uh, time to um, wind down this episode and to summarize really by saying, from my perspective, it sounds like the Chinese consumer is very much like any consumer around the world. They don't like uncertainty. They want something more certain and something more predictable in their life. I think it's interesting to see, of course, that this is something that seems to be common across all of humanity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great. I think with that, Grace, I think our first episode part is a great way to set the stage. We talked a little bit about the different consumer classes, the high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, the rural areas, which seem to be the future rise in the market to drive a lot of the growth. We talked about the religion of money and the role that that plays among the Chinese consumer and the expectations that they have for the brands to have more meaning coming from the brand, something that speaks to them a little bit more. Any final words from your side before we wind down this episode? And then next time, we'll jump into the topic of China's cultural soft power and the global perception of China's cultural soft power.
Very looking forward to talk about the Chinese culture and the Chinese soft power. I think this episode we just mentioned and touch based on a lot of market potentials. I think the brand with ambitions can still make money in China. This is a very attractive market. The global brand with ambition should not give it up. There are a lot of potentials for the brand to thrive and make money right here. So next episode, when we talk about the soft power, I will just give you more thoughts on what is happening in China and why I predict that Chinese soft power will be a bright spot after Chinese EV, AI, and biotech.
This sounds like it's going to be an interesting discussion next time, and I look forward to that. So, thank you, Grace, for joining this week on the Auto Ethnographer, and I look forward to our conversation the next time.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's my pleasure to talk with you. Thanks.
And to all the listeners out there, thank you very much for joining in. I look forward to running into you on the next episode. Until that time, keep on driving. Thank you for joining us on today's journey. Please remember to like and subscribe to the Auto Ethnographer and leave us a rating or comment. For more information, visit our website at auto-ethnographer.com. You can also follow on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.